Hello, welcome to another in our Why Study series. The subject for this little film is going to be Why Study Intercommunion, and I'm going to talk to Professor Tom O'Loughlin about this. You've been writing about this, Tom, recently, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Intercommunion is one of those problems that we all know is there, but it doesn't attract very much attention because it's felt to be too big a problem to tackle, or it's just too darn awkward.
And we're talking about intercommunion between the churches, just so that everyone knows.
We're talking about the fact that ever since the ecumenical movement really got off the ground in the late 1960s, the issue has come up. Why can people participate fully in the Eucharist by eating and drinking in other churches that are now talking to one another ecumenically? And among the Protestant churches, that's usually not a problem. They use a formula, if you eat and drink in your church, you can eat and drink in our church. But one of the major problems among Western Christians, and we'll leave aside the whole question of Eastern and Western Christians for now, is can someone from another church eat and drink in a Catholic church?
And when you say eat and drink, you mean in a Eucharistic sense?
In the Eucharistic
you don't mean
eating, in the
coffee and
Eucharistic
biscuit sense. Yeah, okay.
I want to avoid this word communicating, which is the old technical jargon.
Okay, but that's what we're talking about.
Because it misses so, and it obscures more than it reveals.
Yeah.
And can Catholics eat and drink in other churches? This has been fizzling along, and one argument that has always been given against it is that eating and drinking in a church signifies complete communion in the sense of koinonia.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is that a church that has reached that level of perfect koinonia is actually a church at the eschatological moment. All churches are, to a greater or lesser extent, imperfect in their koinonia. And the question is eating and drinking Eucharistically a means towards that perfect koinonia, or is it to be seen as a fruit of the koinonia? In October 2015, Pope Francis went to the Lutheran Church in Rome for a celebration of 500 years since the Reformation, at the beginning of the whole celebrations that went with the Luther year.
Yes.
And there, a lady came up to him and asked him a question, well, when will it happen? And he made the very interesting observation, well, if we were to look on the Eucharist as a result, then of course that's leaving it till the eschatological moment. But what if you were to use the whole imagery going all the way back to the earliest times, and famously given reference in the Council of Nicaea, that the Eucharist is food for the journey on the way, and if Christians are journeying on the way together, then you should look on the Eucharist not as a prize for the end, but as the sustenance in this journey towards the end, and that the perfect koinonia is the eschatological desire of all of the churches when they will have koinonia. And then he makes a very strange statement. He says, but of course these are just ideas. This is a very technical issue. The theologians must take it up. And I had been working on the Eucharist for many years.
Yes.
And I thought, well, here is I had been thinking about this problem for many years, and I had written little bits and pieces on this problem. And I thought, right, it's time that we started examining this in a systematic and all-embracing way. And so I have tried in my most recent book to try and take up the call that Pope Francis gives to theologians, that should we eat together as part of the process of becoming one, and what would be the underlying theology of seeing the Eucharist as food for this journey. So the book has the rather unimpressive title, Eating Together, Becoming One.
That's a splendid title.
And it's just taking up Pope Francis's call to theologians. So that's what I've been working on. Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.